This is the Ag Engineering Podcast that rolls right into the details on tools, tips, and techniques that improve you, your farm, and our world. I'm your host, Andy Chamberlain from the University of Vermont Extension, and this podcast is sponsored by Northeast SARE. Thanks for listening. This episode comes to you from Westminster, West Vermont, where I visit with Howard Prusak of Meadows Farm. He grows on 6 acres in the climate zone 5 and has gross sales between $350,000 and $500,000. They peaked a little over 5, but they've brought that down as he's trying to scale back and do a little bit less as his farming career continues on. I visited Howard in October, where we walked around his farm and talked about many different sorts of farm toys. I mean tools. Because he's accumulated quite a bit for vegetable production, and he's definitely got his favorites, both old and new. So in this episode, we're going to mainly focus on some of the older equipment here at Meadows Farm. The next episode, we'll talk about some of the new equipment, and then following that, we'll get into some plastic mulch laying, and then a conversation about he's got a special message for those who are just getting into agriculture now, based on his experience. So stay tuned for the next handful of episodes here with Howard, and let's dive into this one.
You know, I've got equipment that's 70 plus years old, and then I've got stuff that I just bought this spring. And they're both very satisfying. I bought that plow brand new 43 years ago, and now all of a sudden I got to replace the coulters, and it's not easy getting. You would think, okay, I got a Massey Ferguson 43, I need coulters. Well, you have to put together the center bearing with the coulter, like nobody has it already, and so you got to find it's just really weird.
It'll make replacement parts for stuff
Not when it's that old. You know, that's one of the dangers of dealing with older equipment. You want to try to keep it constantly in good shape so you don't fall behind, and then it's like an oops moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I've replaced the plowshares and I'm due again. I am not anti-plow. I have arguments quite a bit online with, no, you can't plow, it's ruining the planet. I mean, people get very agitated. And they're never farmers. It's always like quasi-gardeners who have these like, oh, and how would you propose I deal with, a new field that hasn't been plowed in 50 years? Tarp 3 acres? I mean, and wait a year? I mean, so it's always interesting. There's a lot of people who want to tell me how I should make a living. That's the funny thing. Like, nobody like harasses a local machinist who goes to work, and
tells them they're doing it wrong.
Right, and then and complains about how much his machine parts cost. But people will complain about how much my squash is. It's elitist.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I don't know. I'll go. Do you stand outside in front of the Tesla dealership and yell at them, for making expensive cars? This is also like 43 years old.
Yeah.
I've rebuilt that once, and I just did some major work on it. I'm really lucky around here. There's like a whole bunch of guys who love repairing stuff. They're good welders. They could just show up on a moment's notice, and fix shit for me.
Yeah.
So I've never had to learn how to weld, because why should I? I mean, I'll never, a guy showed up 2 years ago and he re-welded that, it broke off, and he straightened stuff out, and I just had another guy here this year, and so, and very reasonably priced, so we're lucky. I always tell people, cultivate friends that know how to fix shit. Like here, I found one of the beams of my barn. All of a sudden we were cleaning up and I realized we're losing a beam.
Oh, geez.
And so he pulled it out. So anyway, I texted a buddy who lives down in the valley, and I said, hey, I need a new beam. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll get to it next week. I mean, he cut out a beam. And he pulled out the old one, and he's gonna replace it, and he's building new elbows because they rotted, and boom. So it's like,
quick little DIY project. Just a
I
beam
did-
in a barn.
yeah. So I'm just really lucky around.
Is this an original dibbler here?
Yeah, it is. It's been retired. It looks very medieval. It's that should go into the NOFA museum of
There you go.
antique machinery.
To give you a visual for this soundbite, this original dibbler was a 55-gallon drum with some wooden spikes out of some dowels attached to this that were rotted and falling off, and rotated all the way around the drum. There's like 6 different layers of them, and used to punch holes in the dirt. Obviously, this is a very original home-built piece of equipment, and I've got a photo of this on the website if you want to check that out later.
But yeah, this is what a homemade dibbler looks like.
Back before dibblers were cool.
And I pulled it by hand. There was an axle that ran through here, and 2 of us would just pull it through the field. And
Was that punching plastic or just marking
no,
dirt?
it was just marking. It's not good enough to go through plastic, but this is so it was just in soil, and
Fit the bill.
it worked. It was good in its day. And then, this is like an evolution of stuff. I built my own sprayer once, and boom sprayer, and now it's like now that I cleaned up the back, this is all going, and that was a little riding sulky sprayer that I pulled with my mainline tiller.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so there was a poly tank in it, and it ran off of a pump from the mainline PTO. So I loved small scale equipment. But it really wasn't practical when I moved here, and with my hills, like riding sulkies and little rototillers, I'm really a tractor.
It's a ride you didn't need to continue.
Right, let's go through here. What other museum pieces?
This next piece of equipment is an old manure spreader.
But this is 70 plus years old. And I just washed it this morning, and
Looks pretty good.
it still works. I just greased it. There's 2 grease nipples I can't get to, so I have a guy coming over who could put extensions on, do extension nipples and get them out so I could grease it.
Reach them.
Yeah. And so I told somebody this morning, I said, well, you got, stuff's in really good shape. And theoretically, any farm equipment should last a lifetime if you do the maintenance. If you keep it greased and painted and undercover, and you don't throw it over a cliff. I mean, it should last forever.
They're built to hold up.
They were built right in the first place. Things tend to be overbuilt because they didn't have the engineering know-how to underbuild.
Yeah.
Now things are built to just right specs.
Right.
So back then they figured out what worked, and then they made, let's make it a little heavier just in case.
You're right.
That basically was the engineering data back then. But all the levers to operate, as good as when it was new. I bought that. I mean, I'm sure I could sell it for. I just ordered a parts and owner's manual.
Yeah.
You could that's what's crazy about tractors and farm equipment. It's there are other nutty people too, who I don't know why they, that there's a business model for that, but there must be, because there are websites devoted to old tractors, catalogs, parts.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
As we rotated around one barn and across the yard, the next place we entered was his original greenhouse.
This house I built in 1979, and I got a grant from the Department of Energy to build it. It was a whole story to it, but Jimmy Carter announced they were looking for energy saving things, and I made a proposal, and I won, and it was like, back then it was like $11,500, which was the largest that they would grant.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you know, they throw money like that around. But back then it was a big deal, and it was like I was one of the first steel frame greenhouses in Vermont, in NOFA. Like Jake Guest and his wife came, and people would come and walk inside and go, "Oh, wow,
Yeah, check
it seems so big," you know. And now it's, you know, it's like nothing.
Oh, this was the one you almost lost this summer.
Yeah, you read
Good
that.
catch. Yeah, I saw that.
That was crazy. Whew, that's just crazy. So
Yeah, that was hot compost or something, right?
it spontaneously combusted. It wasn't even compost. It was potting soil.
Jeez.
Had some compost-based potting soil, but and I found out that up in Manitoba they have peat fires are a real thing.
Yeah.
They happen.
The conditions are just right.
Exactly, but there was no lightning here, but whatever it was, and I never figured out if there was reflected light. But this is the
Maybe.
north side,
Yeah.
so it's like we just never figured it out. But yeah, I was just minutes away from losing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good catch for sure. Originally, when I built this house, actually, it was I set it up for it was in-ground heating, so I was like way ahead of
Wow.
people.
Yeah.
So
That's early tech right there.
oh yeah, I designed and built an in-ground heating system. We were growing in bags. It was bag culture on the ground of peat with drip irrigation through all the bags, and we were growing lettuce. And then we switched to a hydroponic system after that. And actually it was on the cover of Vermont Life. I don't remember what year, 83 maybe or something, 84. And then it's evolved, now it's drying hemp.
Yeah.
And then now these are heated bench propagation tables. And so we used, after the plants come out, then we used it we had onions. This was all filled with onions. And the onions came out, and then we're into hemp, and then we'll clean it up and get ready for spring again. But yeah, this was a cool system that we built ourselves, running off of gas, propane, and just pretty simple. And it works. And I could shut the heat to any one bench. And
Oh, benchtop heating.
yeah,
Right.
it's all bench top with micro rubber tubes and things. And yeah, bench top heating, it's awesome. I've got one of the largest greenhouses, bench top heating. So yeah, the biggest discussion I have with new farmers, growers, is because I want to get a tractor, and I could find a cheap tractor, and I said that you're going about it wrong. When you're looking for equipment, you got to figure out what do you want, what's the job you want to get done, okay? Then you get the tool to get that job done. Price really shouldn't enter into it. If it's going to be a business and you got to get X done, you got to get the right tools. Otherwise, you're going to lose. You're going to fail. It's designing to fail, or you'll be miserable until you finally get the right tool. So that was the few nuggets of wisdom I've come to.
Yeah.
That was one.
The next tool in the yard is a large subsoiler he uses behind his 60-horse tractor.
So yeah, I got this at an auction a bunch of years ago.
It's like a good auction find.
It was, yeah. I loan it out to some other growers in the area, and they bring it back much worn. I couldn't believe how many thousand acres did you go through? This is like treated steel here, and they wore it down this spring. It's amazing. So this I bought last year, a new mower to replace my old brush hog that I had for 43 years, and I sold it for just a little less than I paid for it. That's the cool thing about keeping equipment in good shape.
For a long time. It's a good buy and hold investment, works well for farm equipment.
Well, you get to use it for 40, 3, actually no, I owned it for 50 years. So I used it for 50 years and then I got my money back. So rent-free for 50 years. So that's how you got to look at equipment. And I enjoy upgraded new stuff though.
Oh, for sure.
It's really, this is so much quieter than my old brush hog.
I was going to ask, what makes a new brush hog better than an old brush hog?
Well, it's quieter. It's a lot quieter.
Bearings are smoother.
Yeah, you don't realize it's like, that things are wearing out and making noise. Oh, it's always made noise. Well, it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
So, but they do things, some things are made better now.
This next piece of equipment, we pull the tarp back and check out actually a new tool he just brought onto the farm this last year. That was a 1-row potato digger.
There's my digger. I haven't finished cleaning it for the season yet. Yeah, somebody was criticizing it. Because I had a video of it posted, and he didn't like the way he didn't like it. It's like, okay, he uses a middle buster to dig his potatoes. It's like, okay, you could do that too.
Yeah.
Some people just, I don't know, they just want to criticize. A few people, but most people are happy to see the postings of equipment
Yeah,
working.
absolutely.
They love seeing it work.
You don't see that in the catalog or a lame website.
Right, you don't. And even if you go to the manufacturer's, link, sometimes it doesn't really give. You want to see what it's working on a real farm. Sometimes of course they'll post the most perfect conditions.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like the Speedo. I mean, I've had
or the Chi-Chi.
Yeah, that one, yes.
Yep.
It's basically the same, a little different. It shakes differently. I think the Chi-Chi sort of shakes it this way. This one's like a back and forth shaker.
Either way, it gets the potatoes out of the
dirt. It got
dirt.
them out, and very little bruising. You got to keep it on the row, and sometimes on the hillside, you're not always going to get it right. But it's certainly better than digging them by hand.
Very expensive?
No, it was like $2,400 maybe, $2,600.
Not too bad.
No, I mean, they're hard to find one-row diggers.
Absolutely.
They do, and then the chain ones, the old ones, they're getting really old, and it's hard to find parts.
Yep.
But I had a 2-row digger, John Deere, on rubber tires, and I loved it, and I sold it to Jack Mannix years ago, and he's gotten rid of it. But I do like a chain digger. I mean, it's really optimum.
Yeah.
I like chain digging. And this is the matching planter, which it's very clever. I made one mistake this year. I used it almost, I did very little setup, and I didn't realize that the planting shoe was set at its deepest level.
Oh.
And I was wondering, the potatoes weren't coming up, they weren't coming up. And I realized that they were planted like, the kingdom come. And
Oops.
so, yeah, it's like, hey, in all fairness, it was the first new planter I ever had, so.
So did they eventually come up?
They did. They did come up.
Took them a while, huh?
It did take them a while, and they were really deep. So digging them by hand sucked until I got the digger going. But otherwise it worked great. And what's really cool is how there's no gears to change. You actually change the circumference of the wheels.
Oh, that's unique.
Yeah, right? What kind of engineering is that? I don't know if that was easier to engineer than a couple of gears and sprockets.
Right.
But you could see how it works. You see?
Yeah.
So you could go up an inch or down an inch.
That's wild.
And so they set it in the middle usage. But it's clever enough that it's worth it to look at.
Same price point as your digger?
Yeah, one of them costs $200, like a few $100 more. I think it's probably this.
Yeah.
There's probably a little more in it. But the furrow closes are great, and I was able to adjust it so it did a perfect job on covering the seed.
How'd you find these? Did you just...
How did I find, I was over in at Pinnacle View in New Hampshire, and I saw something. I saw one. I asked about it, and that was sold out, but he was going to be getting more in last fall. So I said, okay, well, put me down for a digger and a planter. And sure enough, the boat came in.
In time.
And it was a good thing I grabbed them, because that was like you couldn't get any more, because of COVID.
They weren't making them.
Shipping, who knows what, but you cannot get equipment. For the money, I mean, I haven't found anything comparable. If you can't find used, which, used equipment's always good to get.
Yeah.
It's certainly an option for new grower for a single row. I think the technology is pretty clever. I like the rubber, apron that works to.
Kind of singulate them.
Because my old John Deere had spikes to pick them up, and I used to have to sharpen the spikes every year, clean them up to make sure they would do a good job.
How's the maintenance? You just hose it out, or do you even really need to do that?
No, I mean,
rinse?
I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it into one of the greenhouses.
So does somebody stand on the back here while they're using it?
Even though it says... That's why they put the stand there.
You're right. To ride to the field, I guess.
Right.
That's what
it's
that's
like,
for.
Do not stand on this.
Yeah.
So, Richie wrote on that. And it was helpful, too, that he was in there to make sure that, each one had a seat.
Yeah.
But yeah, there seems to be a lot of interesting farm equipment overseas that won't even come in. Like Japan has like some amazing small scale stuff operated by, little Honda motors and very, very specialty equipment. They don't seem to have rocks there in any of those videos. It's like, 3 feet of like fine silt.
Lucky them.
After that, we walked into the barn to talk about his brush washer.
And I've had this for a while, a long time. Now that everybody's going to the new style, but I'm not gonna. I'm sort of almost done like buying stuff.
Yeah.
Now I'll buy stuff if it's fun inducing. I'm not sure. Like, it's got to make money now. It's got to be something that's going to increase, like make money or.
Well, what are the main crops you put through this? Everything?
Well, now everything. We had a barrel washer, a Wilsey barrel washer that we had set up right here on the end, and it was kind of cool because we used the same table, for the roots, but it was only, we stopped doing bulk carrots, so it didn't really make sense to have, and all the other roots we're putting through here, and it does a perfect job. Potatoes, turnips, rutabagas, beets. So it's done a good enough job that we don't, and then squash. I mean, we'll put, it's tonnage of squash through here.
So from a produce safety perspective, it's mostly cooked crops.
Yeah, we're not doing raw.
Yeah, so.
We're not doing greens. I purposely don't,
You're not putting.
Don't grow greens really.
You're not putting peppers and cucumbers through here.
No, we're not growing those crops.
So therefore it's totally fine.
Right, yeah. What did we do?
Otherwise, it'd be a bear to clean.
We do celery, but you don't wash celery. We don't wash it. Although actually, I guess I do chill it.
Well, you wouldn't put that through a machine like this.
No, we do a dunk tank.
Yeah.
Fill it with cold water, and I just like dunk it in there, get some of the field heat off, and in the box, and then into the cooler. So celery's turned out to be a nice crop for us.
Yeah.
Onions are a big crop because you don't need to wash onions. Garlic, same thing. So what we grow is really, when I I designed what we grow is I didn't want to grow anything that would wilt particularly, or that I had to bend down and pick continuously, like beans or peas. You know, I've been there, done that. So I wanted things to be, if you're bending down economically, it makes sense. Like we do bunched beets because it's easy to boom, and you got, it's X amount of money. A bunch of beets is boom, boom. So I could figure out our cost on that easily. But greens, I just didn't want to get involved. We do one crop of early lettuce, and that was really, and that's it in the greenhouse. So the greenhouse stuff is fun, growing veggies in a greenhouse, and that's an evolution because 40 years ago we weren't doing that, except for that we were going to do it in that house. That's what it was built for. When I got the grant for. But the money we were getting then is not like the money we could get now. So I remember after working all winter in that greenhouse, I traded money, basically. It's like $10,000 in, $10,000 out, and and why did we do this?
It's not getting you ahead.
No, it didn't get ahead, at all.
How do you like these orange carts? I've seen them kicking around the greenhouse.
Oh, I love them. Yeah.
Andre was showing me, he's got a couple yellow similar style ones.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Got these from Leonard's, and so we got like 6 of them.
TerraTech makes
Yeah.
and sells a very similar cart.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
he's marketing those.
Yeah. They're great. I mean, I've had these some of these for 10 years or more, and they're indestructible, and everybody loves them. They're handy. They're just the right height. We use them in the greenhouses. We use them everywhere in the barn. They're great. And then we finally started getting the ones with the non-flat tires, which I would definitely recommend. Because
One less maintenance.
it is, and and those cheap tires, they're from China, and they don't hold their air, and they go flat, and it really sucks. Yeah, I don't know why China can't seem to build tires that work.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If I can ask you or direct you to do one thing, that is to go to the website for this podcast, agengpodcast.com. That's agengpodcast.com. There you'll find the show notes. You'll find links to the farmer who we chatted with today, as well as photos or videos from the call when I visited the farm. If you've got some feedback to share, my contact information's on there, or you can leave me a voicemail, and you can do that right from the link in the description in the mobile app you're listening to this to. So go ahead and do that. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you have a great day.